So today is the 9th of January and I rode Milano today. I didn't do a very long session. I've had quite a busy Christmas and New Year. I've been doing arena party at Olympia and etc. Here you can just see I am warming up in the walk. I was focusing on riding a bit of a square, just in places around the school randomly, around the fences, moving her shoulder, making sure I've got control of the shoulders. Here I'm asking her to move a bit more forwards in the walk, see a little bit of a swish of the tail. That's just because she's not quite responsive to my leg. And then I decide to move up into the trot, keeping her forward. We had a little bit of resistance in the upward transitions today, so I think that's something I work on in this session. Here just trotting past, you can see she is quite consistent in the frame in the trot. So maybe just the transitions we need to work on. Have a lot of control of the shoulders here. She's quite a spooky horse when there's things in the school, such as fences, any types of jumping blocks, any types of poles. She does look at them often and actually back off. So I was making sure she was in front of my leg the whole time. I'm riding some quite random shapes, and it might look like there isn't really a plan. But actually today my plan was to be quite random, put things in front of her and next to her and just let her work them out and realise they're not as scary as she thinks they are. Here we're just trotting down the long side. We've got a really nice rhythm today. I think she's quite relaxed at the moment, quite supple. There was just a little bit of leg gild to the outside. Here you can see I'm just trotting back through the fences, riding a change of rein. Heading back past the camera. There I'm just asking for a bit more of a forward trot. I like to change the paces quite a lot, and as you can see she becomes quite unbalanced, so I need to keep the consistency in my reins and use my core more to change the pace rather than just allowing her to run through my hands. Her canter transition is very weak. She often strikes off disunited. So this is something I'm working towards. I want to make all of the transitions very meaningful and deliberate. So I want to think about where I ask for those transitions. Here I'm just asking her to ride a bit of a half 10-metre circle to the right, and I can keep control of her shoulders quite nicely, so I was quite pleased with that. She remained consistent in her frame. She wasn't resistant at all, and she remained forward and in front of my leg. Sometimes she does drop behind the leg, so I think possibly using some spurs. If I carry a long whip and it touches her at all, she often becomes quite spooky, resistant in the frame, and she bucks. So I'd rather not make her uncomfortable in that way. She does need to get used to it. It's something I'm going to be riding her with more often. But for now, keeping her a bit more comfortable, still getting used to her. I don't want to unsettle her. Nice forward trot across the diagonal there. She's still not quite lengthening as much as I'd like her to. She's not really lifting up and forward through that shoulder. She's just becoming a bit choppy and actually shortening her stride and just becoming quicker. Here riding around some more of the fences. Lots of changes of rein. I think this really helps get her a bit more supple and a bit more round my leg. Obviously with a school like this there isn't a lot of room to leg gild and shoulder in and traverse, so I'm using my space more efficiently here. Nice big trot across the middle again. You can see she's still quite choppy, but there actually is a little bit of lengthening there. And even though it's not a Valegro style extension, we're working towards something, so small steps of extension are good, small steps of medium trot are good. I just was riding a 10-metre circle left there. That was just to regain the balance, get her back to her consistent rhythm. Her nose just then was heading down and out a little bit more, which I liked, and then she just became quite resistant in my hand. I think she was anticipating the canter transition, which you can see in a second. She definitely knew I was going to ask for canter, so maybe I need to remain a little bit quieter in my seat. I think it's because she's not always in front of my leg. Here, asking for that transition again. She was still a little bit hollow in that transition, but actually now she's in the canter, she's much nicer, much more forward, much more supple and relaxed. Here I'm just going like seat a little bit, that's just to keep her forward. For me, remaining soft and light and just keeping my leg on, especially for her as she is quite spooky, just really helps. Here asking her just to go on a bit of a smaller circle there, which actually she kept the canter, which was nice. I anticipated her going back to trot. Here doing that again, and actually she's got the inside flexion quite nicely there. Her hindquarters are still on the inside a little bit more than I would like, but that's okay. That's something we're working towards. Nice simple change there. She was slightly resistant in her head and neck, but that's something that will come. That was probably my fault. I think I need to be a bit more prepared for that transition specifically. Here, cantering to the right. This is her weaker canter rein. But actually she rode a smaller circle there. It's about 20 metres diameter, but she rode that quite nicely. Here she just dropped into trot. So I just asked for that canter again. I think with some horses you can ask for it too much. So with Milano, I think if I ask too many times, she just becomes a bit more resistant and a bit more excitable, and therefore we lose the relaxation. I did just ask for a leg change, which she did really nicely. I think that's also an important factor to consider when we're schooling. I think actually having a bit of fun, like here, just asking for some leg changes. She really enjoys them. We do rush a little bit, but I think the more we do them, the more balanced she'll become. So I just thought, why not have a little bit of fun? Just ride a 3-loop serpentine for a few times and just ask for a right and left leg change. She actually does change behind first lots of the time, which is good. That's what you want for a dressage test if you were riding the higher levels. So past elementary, if you have a leg change, you should change behind first. Here she does. And she does remain quite soft and supple in her frame. And she doesn't change her rhythm too much. Here you just saw she didn't change when I asked her to, but that's okay. She corrected herself. And I didn't make too much of a deal about it. I just allowed her to keep the canter almost until she changed and rebalanced herself. I think it's important that she learns to balance herself rather than me correct her all the time, because I won't always be there. Especially in this riding school environment, lots of people ride her. So it's important for her to maintain her balance to prevent her from hurting herself. Here we're just keeping the canter. I like to work the canter a lot with Milano. I think it softens her up and loosens her up a bit. She is only 9, but actually sometimes she does get swelling in her back legs. So I think it's good for her to keep moving. And I also would like her to get a lot fitter. So we're almost doing a bit of interval training here, cantering for a couple of minutes, then back to trot and having a walk break, and then off we go again. So I think this type of training is quite beneficial for her, especially from a fitness point of view, if we're going to do a bit of show jumping. Show jumping rounds aren't more than a couple of minutes, but obviously if we do multiple rounds, she needs to be fit enough to perform for a few minutes, have a rest, and then go back to jumping again. And here you can just see I'm cooling her off a little bit. I didn't want to do too much of a long session today, so I'm just trotting around on a loose rein, making sure I'm still sitting tall as one of my targets to work on, but also just lengthening my reins a little bit, getting that nose longer and lower. Here she's really stretching down, and actually I felt like she was lengthening her stride a bit without increasing the speed, which was quite nice. She's got a little bit more cadence here actually from what looking at previous videos, so she's actually swaying a little bit more over her back, which is really nice. Shows that the work we're doing is improving her way of going. Round on the circle, she's also staying nice and soft. Still using my original plan of sort of random shapes around the school, getting her used to the fences. Actually a really good session today. I keep going for a few more minutes and then I call her off.